Good evening. We're going to begin the council meeting for April 12th, 2021. If you would please stand so we can recite the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas, roll call, please.
Certainly, Mr. President. Mr. Delaney?
Here.
Mr. Dern?
Here.
Mr. Doyle?
Here.
Mr. Hadley?
Here.
Mr. Odom?
Present.
Mr. Pastor?
Here.
Mr. Vento is absent this evening. Mayor Schlegel?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Motion to approve the treasurer's report for the month of March.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Doyle, second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to approve the expenses for the month of March.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Doyle,
Seconded.
second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, actually, Mr. Thomas, if you read the report, please. Apologize for that.
No problem. General fund payables requiring council approval for the month of March, $751,570.97. Street improvement fund payables requiring council approval, $5,161.44. Fire fund payables requiring council approval, $24,472.11. Capital improvement fund payables requiring council approval, $98,152.66. Flood mitigation fund payables requiring council approval, $44,127.57. EMS fund payables requiring council approval, $9,956.09. 2019 bond fund payables requiring council approval, $319,934.94. Purchasing card direct vendor payments, Republic Services, $168,108.20. Miscellaneous borough purchases of $162.72. And for a total payables to be approved of $1,421,646.70.
Having received a motion and a second, would you vote to approve the expenses for the month of March? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to approve the March 8th council meeting minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Doyle.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hadley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recognition of achievements in the community. Mayor Slagle.
Thank you. I have a couple tonight. The first is for honoring the 60th wedding anniversary of Walter and Margaret Coleman. Their wedding anniversary was the 25th. They've got the proclamation. They didn't want any hoopla over the fact, but I'm going to read it. Whereas it has come to my attention that March 25th is a special day for Walter and Margaret Coleman, and whereas Walter and Margaret were united in marriage on March 25th, 1961, and are now celebrating their 60th wedding anniversary. And whereas Walter and Margaret have resided in Plum for over 50 years, raised their family here, and both worked for the Plum Boro School District. And whereas this marriage was blessed with 2 children, Douglas and Jeffrey. And whereas Douglas and his wife Amy blessed them with 2 grandchildren, Ben and Sam, who they doted on and spoiled. And whereas Walter and Margaret have honored their vow to love, honor, and cherish each other for all the days of their lives. Now therefore, I, Harry R. Schlegel, Mayor of Plum Boro, along with the members of Plum Boro Council, join with their family, friends, and our entire community in extending best wishes on their 60th wedding anniversary. That's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah.
The next one I have, and I see them in the back, and the reason I haven't met these people, but the only reason I know there's 5 little girls sitting back there, or 4. And this is a certificate of achievement for Amy and Nick Bossareri. If I'm mispronouncing it, I apologize. Come on up, please, and get the podium there. Now, I started, last month, I started a thing where I want to recognize achievements in the community, and you can't be recognized for doing something. It has to be recognized by someone in the community, your neighbors, for example, and the people you helped have provided me this information. As I said, we're going to call this the Plum Spirit Awards. We're still working on what that award is going to be, but these people took it upon themselves, and I'll read it. Whereas, thoughtfulness and service to others is a hallmark of the American character and central to how we meet our challenges. And whereas volunteering of an individual's time and resources is an essential part of the American spirit. And whereas it is even more in evidence that Plum Boro's greatest natural resource is its people. And whereas Amy and Nick Bossereri are a shining example of this resource and deserving of our praise and gratitude for making a positive difference in Plum community. And whereas Amy and Nick are the parents of 5 girls, they generously volunteered their time to ensure that students were provided with school lunches every school day in April, May, and June of 2020, who could not otherwise pick the meals up themselves. And whereas Amy and Nick exemplified a volunteering community spirit that helped to build Plum Boro and demonstrated that it is alive and strong today. And whereas each year many citizens commit their time and talents to improve the quality of life for our community, few can achieve the degree of service and commitment of Amy and Nick. Therefore, be it resolved that I, as mayor, and the citizens of Plum Boro wish to honor and thank Amy and Nick Bossereri for their wholehearted devotion to Plum Boro's children. In so doing, I, Harry R. Schlegel, Mayor, call upon all citizens to help to renew and sustain the American spirit demonstrated by the Bossereris in emulating their example and committing themselves to address the needs of Plum Boro through voluntary action. Nick and Amy, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure working with you guys.
Thank you.
And I'm glad
Thank
your
you.
neighbors thought enough to put it in, those people you helped.
We're very humbled and honored.
Now, girls, you all can leave if you want. Look at that, you're going out the door already.
I would too if you'd let me. It's your report.
Yeah, they go to sleep during this. And I received another, Doris Morris, who lives over in Garlow, saw on the, went on replay of one of the council meetings that I was looking for things that people did to recognize how great our community is and the people within it. And Doris sent me, and I'm not going to read 4 pages, but she sent me 4-page handwritten letter.
Oh, wow.
Telling me about the people in her neighborhood and outside that have helped her. Now Doris is 4 foot, I think 9 or 10. She weighs probably in her 100 pounds, and she's 88 years old. So there's some things that she cannot do for herself. Although when I met her, I don't see why there's anything that woman can't do. Some of her neighbors, James, I'm going to mispronounce the name, Dotagis, he's put air in her tires and repaired a broken light in her kitchen and repaired the lock on her front door. His wife, Barb, bought her welcome lights for her to put in her windows that are on from dusk to dawn and light the rooms in the house so that she doesn't trip when she goes through the house at night. Dave Grassinger, who's a former neighbor, he now lives up by me. Her ceiling fell down due to all the water in her basement, and also one wall was damaged. Dave's a carpenter. Dave repaired the ceiling and wall, and he and his wife, Pat, and their daughter and son-in-law continued to check on her. And when she offered them money, they wouldn't take it. Derek Riggins, cuts her grass, and checks on her and her house regularly. Audrey, she's the manager at the Sunoco station and doesn't live in Plum. Helps her when she gets gas and will do anything for her and others. When the gutters in her house were damaged by water cascading over them, a customer at the Sunoco station by the name of Dave Chairman, whom Doris did not know, but came over and replaced her gutters at no charge. Mike Moskal, another neighbor, checks on her regularly and shovels her driveway and helps her to clean up after the flooding of her house. George Vicora, a neighbor, put batteries in her smoke detectors because she can't get up on the ladder. Bob Stewart, another neighbor, checks on her, and if he sees no action at her house, he goes over. Laura Hunter shovels snow from her driveway, and also another neighbor who cannot do it by himself. So this woman does it for both neighbors. Bill Hamatak, after the big snow, her words, took her to get her first vaccine shot because she could not drive in the snow. This gentleman is on oxygen full time, yet he was concerned enough to take her for her vaccine shot. Michelle Fink, another neighbor, stopped by and did grocery shopping, took her shopping. Also brought her a wind chime to make her happy. Dave Chairman, again, repaired the gutters and would take no money. And finally, Sonia Peterson. She's not a neighbor. She lives on Salzburg Road, but lives in Plum. Routinely stops to see if she needs anything and brought her things to occupy her while she was confined to the house during this pandemic. Plum's not perfect, but we got a lot of great people in this community.
Hear, hear.
This is what they do for the neighbors. This is neighbor helping neighbors, and that Plum is a very large community, but in many, many ways, it's a small town. People know each other and help each other unbidden. And this is what I want to recognize in people. So again, if anybody knows of these accomplishments out there, I definitely want to hear about them, and we're going to recognize them as soon as the staff and I can come up with some way of doing that properly other than proclamations. And thank you for your time this evening, Mr. President. That's all I have for now.
Thank you, Mayor Slagle. Moving on to civic announcements. Yes, ma'am. Hey, Karen, how are you?
Hi, I'm Karen Hochberg. I'm the director of the Plum Community Center. It's actually a great segue to what the mayor was saying. One of the things that we're going to do tomorrow is we're having a vaccine clinic that has taken us a while to bring it to the community, but we're doing the first shot Moderna. We have 277 people registered. But I came to thank Brian Maloney of the Plum EMS. I want you to know how wonderful it is that he is willing to have his team work with us to go to the homebound Meals on Wheels clients and other folks that have called the center to say that they can't get to a place to get a vaccine. So they'll do 33 of his EMTs will do 30 shots tomorrow of the J&J. And I so appreciate his willingness to do it. When I finally got the county to come, I called him and he's like, I'll come to that meeting. And he was right there in the helping and the planning of that. And to your point, Mayor, we really, throughout the community, we need to find the Mrs. Morrises as well. We at the center would like to have a more extensive list of homebound individuals.
Mrs. Morris is not home.
I know, but there are people that we are trying to find that we would like to, have that list. So tomorrow we'll take care of the people that we can. But if there are people watching this in the community that can't get somewhere, please call us so that we can have a more extensive list. The only other thing that I want to announce is that we're still only approved by the county for one-on-one appointments. So to get in the center, you have to call, have an appointment, and we've been delivering. I think we're going to do, since the taxes have been extended, we'll probably do 400 tax returns. But I can't open up yet. But we've submitted the paperwork, and we're hoping when the cases go down again that they'll approve us to get back to having in-person. But we'll also still do online things. And the other thing that I would like people in the community who don't have the technology, we're going to be able, if you're, probably 60 and older, in the coming months, we may be able to get some grants to actually provide technology for people who need it in their homes. If you don't have it and you have trouble affording it, also call the center and let us know. So 412-795-2330. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Karen. Any other civic announcements? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Pam Calfo, the Library Director at Plum Boro Community Library, and tonight I come on behalf of myself and the Library Board of Trustees, and we're seeking your assistance in a few maintenance matters around the grounds of the building. The library is now open to the public. We still are offering curbside service to those patrons who feel more comfortable doing that. As part of the Parks and Recreation Department, we've appreciated the relationship we have and continue to have with the borough through many financial resources, as well as the upkeep of various exterior parts of our grounds, such as snow removal, trash, and parking lot lighting. Right now, we need to remove a tree that has fallen on library property adjacent to the building that is in a space that we'd like to utilize for outdoor programs this spring and summer. The remnants of the trunk would also need to be cut to the ground if the stump can't be removed. There is a deep pothole in the parking lot that we would greatly appreciate being filled for the safety of our patrons. And in addition, our aged flagpole has fallen and must be replaced with a more stable and permanent solution. We would welcome the opportunity to invite you all, the council, to a dedication of the flagpole as well. And finally, there's a hole on the hillside of the property where a mine subsided used to be, and that needs to be filled in. Beginning this spring and this summer, we plan on maximizing the use of our outdoor space by providing outdoor and safe programs for members of the community. As such, everyone in Plum would be able to benefit from the assistance in handling these matters on the grounds of our property and help us to create a more sustainable outdoor space for your users. We appreciate your support at the library, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Pam. Had you previously communicated any of these items?
No,
okay,
not
so
yet.
this is the first time?
Yes, this is the first time, yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
great, thanks.
Yeah, and I submitted a letter today with all this in it, but I
Okay.
just want to tell you all in person and say hello.
We
Yeah, no, thank
appreciate
you.
it. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, thank you for that, and
Thank you.
we'll definitely work with our borough staff to figure out which of those items we can, address and come through on your behalf.
Great, thank you. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other civic announcements? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Council. PJ Mudar, I wanted to take the time to introduce myself tonight. This is the first year that I've been acting fire chief of Unity Fire Department over on Old Leechburg. Just wanted to kind of give an update from the station and what was going on. For the month of March, the station ran 49 calls for service. Department members completed 4 technical rescue drills, which was focused on patient packaging and rope rescue systems. We also completed our state-mandated hazmat awareness and operations refresher. Upcoming training for the month of April is we were focusing on our ladder company training, which is our aerial device. Apparatus itself, we completed repairs on our ladder truck and our second engine out. The station itself, we completed a new gear washer and dryer. This helps us to clean our gear after incidents where we would get blood or any kind of smoke or debris on our gear. This greatly improves our capabilities because previously we had to let it air dry, which could take a day or 2 days. So this has reduced that down to about 4 hours. So that's a great improvement to our capability. We also renovated one of our restrooms for the public. If we have any kind of fundraisers that the public comes into, we upgraded those facilities. Lastly, for fundraising, March 7th, we held a food truck rally. So we wanted to give a big thank you to the community and to any members that came and supported us. It's greatly appreciated in these pandemic times. So thank you for your time, and look forward to working with you guys in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hey, good evening, guys. I'm Alex Marszewski. I'm the Medical and Community Outreach Officer for
I was
Holiday
going to say,
Park.
Brian, you put on some weight.
I'm filling in for Jim tonight, so I'm the skinnier version, I guess. I want to talk about some activities coming up for the community that our station is going to offering starting next week. Next week is National Volunteer Week. That's founded by the Points of Light Foundation, which George Bush founded many years ago. As part of that, we're going to open up our station for 4 nights. Monday through Thursday from 6 to 8 o'clock. We invite everyone, the community, businesses, children, anyone who wants to learn how to volunteer in the fire service world. We're here for you. Or you want to learn about just the fire department in general. Or you want to bring kids down there to be junior firefighters. We want to open the doors and have you come in and see that. So each night we'll have several firefighters as well as community members that don't do the fire side, to do the administration, to do the fundraising. So people can see different angles that they can volunteer with. We'll have it there. We'll have refreshments. We'll have a little area for the kids to participate. So if your children have never seen a fire truck before, here's a great chance to introduce them so they don't get scared from it, pick up some fire safety tips. So that's going to start actually next Monday and run through Thursday. Also, as part of that, we're going to be highlighting every day starting next Sunday, or excuse me, this coming Sunday, a profile of one of our members every night. And this is not just the firefighters. We're talking the person who works in the kitchen. We're talking the person in the back office. We're talking about one of the mechanics. So you can see, once again, that a fire department is not just firefighters. It's a whole community. So we invite you to go on Facebook, our website, see these profiles every single day and see how you can possibly pitch in, not necessarily with us, with any other organization in Plum. 2 other big things coming up we want to invite the community to. We're happy to announce that in July, we're going to have a golf classic. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we had to cut back on a lot of our fundraising activities, our traditional, gun bash and stuff, and bingo's gone away. So we're trying something outdoors. So on July 25th at Meadowwink Golf Course, we're going to have a golf classic. We're currently soliciting companies that want to come out and do sponsorship, and we'll be announcing the actual participant signups in about a month. So we're hoping to have 144 competitors compete in that day, and we encourage you. So if you're interested, please go to our Facebook page, please go to our website, give us a call. We invite you to come down for that. And then following in some of the activities we did last year, as well as what Unity did, we have a food truck rally coming up at the end of this month. It's the final Sunday of the month. Please come out. It not only helps us, but helps all those food truck vendors. Some are local, some are coming from outside the community. So once again, it's a chance to kind of engage with the people that are out there. And the very last thing I want to talk about is, you might have seen this in the Trib the other day, is our fire camp. I know Jim's mentioned it before, but we want to pass the message along to all the parents. We have a very strong COVID-19 plan in place. We're going to make it a very safe environment for your children. There's going to be daily checks. We're going to have extra health officials on with us, not just our medical staff, but some other individuals. We're going to do testing, cleaning, and so forth. So if you're concerned about sending your child to fire camp, give us a call. We're happy to talk about the plan for you. We're eager to get a full camp this year, give these kids a chance to expose themselves. We've had kids that were on the waiting list last year that are excited to come this year. So once again, that's available for any teens 14 through 17 this June. So once again, that's from Holiday Park. We look forward to any questions that the council may have. We invite you guys to come down next week too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, sir. Any other civic announcements? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on with our agenda. President's comments. So 2 items that I wanted to bring up. The first is related to the Stormwater Task Force meeting, which occurred on March 25th. We had a number of items on our agenda to discuss, just to kind of give you a high-level overview of some of the discussion topics. We got an update from KU Resources relative to the long-term solutions for the O-Block Key West project and the Center Beach project. The joint permit for the O-Block Key West project will be resubmitted after addressing comments from the DEP. And the Center Beach project is ready, but the submittal is pending the completion of land acquisition for that particular project. We also discussed a number of work that had been completed since the last Stormwater Task Force meeting. That included staff's work with GIS consultants to develop a mobile inspection system for storm ponds, outfalls, and catch basins. There's approximately 2,400 catch basins in the borough. That's quite a large number. And staff actually was able to inspect 475 of those catch basins. And from those inspections, there were a number of maintenance items that were identified as needing to be completed, and those actions are going to be taken on those respective catch basins. There was also a discussion about the potential applicability of the ISO standard for stormwater management. ISO is the International Organization for Standardization, and it's an independent, non-governmental organization that essentially brings together experts to share knowledge and address items associated with innovation and provide solutions to different challenges. In this particular case, there's an ISO standard, a number of ISO standard documents that are currently being developed that establish best practices for stormwater management. So the task force looked at some of these and recognized that there could be some applicability to adopting some of those standards. The standards are currently in draft, and so the consensus amongst the individuals on the task force was that we would look at these standards once they were published and determine whether or not it would be a good idea to move forward with adopting a formal ISO standard or ISO program that would be based on the standards associated with stormwater management. So more to follow on that particular item once those standards are published. There was also a discussion on the date for the next public meeting. That was originally scheduled for Saturday, April 24th. However, due to existing COVID restrictions that only allow us to have events at 25% maximum occupancy, we're looking at moving that date to Saturday, May 22nd. We're hoping that will allow for some additional time for the restrictions to be lifted to accommodate more occupancy within this particular facility, given the numbers that we'd like to have for folks participating in the next public meeting. We did actually entertain potentially holding the meeting outside, but there were a number of logistical concerns that we would have to overcome as far as having multimedia equipment available for presentations and things of that nature. So the general consensus amongst the task force was to keep it indoors as opposed to moving it outdoors. And the next Stormwater Task Force meeting is tentatively scheduled for April 22nd. The next item that I wanted to bring up as part of President's comments has to do with an item that I discussed at the last meeting relative to the information that I had provided about the concerns of water treatment facilities, given that there was a cyber attack that occurred on a water treatment facility in Florida. I reached out to Bill Rumbaugh, who's at the Plum Municipal Authority, and discussed my concerns. And he was able to put me in touch with the Municipal Authority of Westmoreland County that provides our water. And I was able to speak with some representatives regarding some of the concerns that I have on how they're managing the cybersecurity of the critical infrastructure that supports our water treatment facility. I was able to get some good information that left me reasonably confident that they are protecting those systems. There isn't a lot of information that I can provide in the way of details because that information is considered sensitive, but they did provide me with some feedback that left me extremely confident that they're doing their diligence in protecting those systems. So I just wanted to follow up on that since I had discussed it in the last meeting to let you know that we did touch base with those individuals and we got some good information relative to what's happening with the security of our water treatment facility. And that's all I have for President's comments. At this time, we will move on with our agenda to citizen comments on agenda items. And I see we have several people that signed up. The first one is, and I'm not sure if I can actually read the handwriting, I believe it's Nino, is that Kamenisi? Did I get, okay, come on up, sir, and state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Nino Comanisi. I live 813 Pearson Run Road there. I had a question about this addition that's going on to a building right next to me. We all have well water on that whole street there, and My biggest concern is I look at a lot of houses on a daily basis that have well water in Murraysville, and a lot of those wells have cisterns. And right now we run out of water, maybe like 3-4 times a year. The church that was there only met like once a week, so it wasn't an issue. But if someone's going to be there like 7 days a week, I know that I talked to the county, but they said that the county does not look into the well. I know they'll look into the septic system, obviously, but is anyone going to look into the well water and consumption of how many people that'll be at this place with adding almost double the square footage?
Yeah, Mr. Sabosely or Mr. Mytald?
There are no regulations that, on the county level that deals with this.
Yeah, that was the problem.
Yeah, but, you do have valid concern. Unfortunately, there's, it's not on. Pull it down. There you go. As I said, there's no regulations on governing any of that.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, we haven't looked into that aspect of it.
Yeah, that was the only thing. Because, water's kind of a big deal. I live right next door.
Do you have a cistern as well, sir?
No, we don't. And, they're pretty expensive. But if we eventually ran out of water like once a week, that's what you have to look into. But even those, I have home inspectors that have them, and they, are tough to deal with. So, and run out. But yeah, that and then parking. The parking before would blow out like the whole street on like a typical Sunday. And now with doubling the square footage, I didn't know if like
It meets our current zoning regulations now.
it does.
It does. Yes.
All right. Well, that's it. So, but someone will look into the water, or because there's tests you could do on wells, but they're extremely expensive and.
Yeah, typically at the Planning Commission, exactly what you said. We make sure that when there's a change of use, it's the same use, but a change in tenant, we want to make sure with the septic system that the system there is in good condition and can hold the use that's going to be there. So we have talked about with the applicant that we would require, as we do with other commercial entities or projects that come before the Planning Commission, that we would ask the county to certify that their system is in good shape.
Yeah, for the septic tank. But
Correct.
For the well water, is there anything that's going to be done?
As Mr. Mytel said, there are no regulations that we would have to look at there.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next individual is Cindy Del Signe. Did I get that right? I'm sorry. Del Signor. Could you come up, please state your name and your address?
My name is Cindy Del Signor. I live at 802 Pearson Run Road. I've lived there practically my whole entire life. And from it being a single-lane dirt road to what it is today, and it's used as a shortcut between Murraysville and Penn Hills. People have learned that there's heavy traffic on the work days, and it's also going into Boyce Park. People are using it for that. It has a hard enough. We don't need any more traffic on that road, and with the construction vehicles coming in, and people are speeding. There's going to be accidents. That's, beside the water problem, that's a big problem. Plus, I believe they're going to put a parking lot, I don't know, because I haven't heard that much, on the one side of the road. So people are going to be walking and crossing there. And I just think it's not suitable.
Okay, thank you for your comments. I don't believe we've gotten any information relative to a parking structure across the street from that location. Is that correct?
Yeah, the site plan that was submitted shows that the existing parking will continue to be parking. The lot and block for the property does extend onto the other side of the road. However, there's no parking that is proposed for the other side of the road.
Okay, thank you, sir. We also have Larry Schmidt. Did I get that right, sir?
Yeah.
State your name and address, please.
Larry Schmidt, 797 Pearson Run, next door. Yeah, the water, the traffic, the parking, it was all that the Jehovah's could handle. If you expand that, and like you could park on the other side because they have a little bit of property there, that means you'd have to walk across, and you can't turn around on that side. You'd have to back out. I mean, not a good thing.
Okay, thank you, sir. And then we have one more individual, Michael Perota. State your name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Michael Perota. I live at 824 Pearson Run Road, and I have a couple concerns about the addition onto there. When the Teledestai Church was where Nino now lives, they had way too many people there. And yes, there are sewage problems there because they run under the road onto my property, which is directly across the street. So I was happy to see when they moved out that has simmered down. So now adding another 4,000 square foot onto that, there's going to be a lot more people in that building, and that's going to end up on my property. And I don't want sewage on my property. And I also own the property up behind that church that's there now. And I don't want a big structure in that area. That's a park setting. We all enjoy the park atmosphere. Everybody in the borough does. And I don't think it's an appropriate place for a big building. And I don't know how they'll handle parking with an additional 4,000 square feet on that. Like he was saying, that parking lot was jam-packed with when the Jehovah's Witnesses were in there. There's no more room for parking for 4,000 additional square feet there. I see it every day. And they park up and down that road when there's something big in there like that. Both sides of the street, very dangerous. Can't see pulling out. There's been accidents there when that church was in there.
Okay, thank you, sir, for the insight. One question that I did have, relative to the sewage problems that were just described by the resident, do we have that area like mapped out from a sewage perspective? Is there like some issue that we're not aware of that's going on there from a sewage perspective?
I believe he's, they're all on septic. They're not on public sewage.
Oh,
service
okay,
over there.
okay, all right. So it's strictly 100% septic.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is it okay if I make a comment about some of the occupancy concerns?
Sure, absolutely.
From reading through the documentation we've been provided, I just want to let you guys know that the plan is to redesign the inside space, to be getting rid of some of the seating and pews. This is actually going to allow, at least according to the plan submitted, lower occupancy with a far less density of individuals. So some of the concerns you have about it being a bigger space, meaning bigger people, that might not necessarily be true. The current plan from their documentation is it's actually going to be a lower occupancy, and that addition is more to help separate the men from the girls. So it's not necessarily going to be more people just because it's a bigger space.
But it could be later.
That's what I'm just saying. That's what they submitted to us, just to try to help alleviate some concerns. Definitely something we need to keep an eye on for sure. I don't like that parking on both sides of the street. That's too narrow of a road for that.
Okay, that concludes our citizen comments on agenda items. Moving on with our agenda, we'll now move to council actions. On behalf of the Planning and Economic Development Committee, for Mr. Vento, we have Mr. Hadley.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Planning and Economic Development Committee, I move to adopt Resolution 900-21 for the transfer of a liquor license to Sheets Incorporated at 2003 Golden Mile Highway.
Motion by Mr. Hadley.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of Planning and Economic Development, I move to adopt Resolution 901-21, adopting the Allegheny County Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Motion by Mr. Hadley.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Delaney. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the Planning and Economic Development Committee, I move to approve an agreement to allow the temporary construction of 2 homes on one lot at 400 Clements Road.
Motion by Mr. Hadley.
Second.
Second by Mr. Doyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the Planning and Economic Development Committee, I move to approve a final land development for the Pearson Run Road Place of Worship, SP-07-20, located at 801 Pearson Run Road, contingent upon the final review and approval of the borough engineer.
Motion by Mr. Hadley.
I'll second that with discussion.
Second by Mr. Doyle with discussion. Proceed, sir.
You know, just one other thing I wanted to point out about this addition. They have gone through our planning and our zoning. They've dotted every I and crossed every T. If we were to deny this, I'm not saying we would, but if we were, they would appeal. We'd go to court. It would cost us money, and we'd lose. They are doing everything by the book, and quite frankly, I hate to say it this plainly, but it is what it is. So unless anybody else has something else to add.
So right now, we're currently taking care of council actions. If there's something that you want to say afterwards, we have a place for that on the agenda toward the end of the agenda, sir. So we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Hadley. It was seconded by Mr. Doyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the Planning and Economic Development Committee, I move to accept FSC-03-21, the Bajac subdivision, FSC-03-21 as complete.
Motion by Mr. Hadley.
Seconded.
Second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And that is all I have for Planning and Economic Development.
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. Again, you're up for Personnel and Management Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Personnel and Management Committee, I move to offer a conditional offer of employment for a police officer, to Jacob Hensel.
We have a motion by Mr. Hadley. Second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Welcome aboard, Officer Hensel. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. On behalf of Public Safety, Mr. Dern.
Thank you, Mr. Odom. On behalf of the Public Safety Committee, I move to adopt Resolution 902-21, and that's adopting the National Incident Management System, which the acronym is NIMS.
Motion by Mr. Dern.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hadley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dern. On behalf of Parks and Recreation Committee, Mr. Delaney.
Thank you, Mr. Odom. On behalf of Parks and Rec Committee, I move to adopt resolution number 903-21, dedicating and naming the bocce courts at Larry Mills in honor of Paul DeBasato. And Mr. Doyle's going ahead and read the resolution for us.
I second that.
So we have a motion by Mr. Delaney and seconded by Mr. Dern. Mr. Doyle, if you would read the proclamation.
Thank you. It's my honor and privilege to read this proclamation. Whereas the Borough of Plum desires to honor the memory of Paul DeSabato and his dedication to serving others, and whereas Paul DeSabato volunteered for many years at Larry Mills Park, coaching youth soccer and serving as a volunteer at the annual Plum Soccer Tournament, and whereas Paul DeSabato is a vital member of the culinary team responsible for the extraordinary cuisine at the annual Plum Boro Summerfest event. Now, therefore, it is resolved that the Borough of Plum hereby officially names the bocce courts at Larry Mills Park in memory of Paul DeSabato. And be it further resolved that a memorial plaque shall be placed at this location to be named the Paul DeSabato Bocce Courts. Be it resolved and enacted this 12th day of April, 2021.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Well deserved.
That is it.
Thank you, Mr. Delaney. On behalf of the Roads, Equipment, and Grounds Committee, Mr. Pastor.
On behalf of the Roads, Equipment, and Grounds Committee, I move to award the 2021 through 2026 contract for weekly garbage and recycling collection to Westmoreland Sanitary Landfill LLC based on the acceptance of the bid option B-1. Total bid price of $10,712,668.08.
Motion by Mr. Pastor.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hadley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. President, I did need to add one thing to the agenda for the Finance Committee.
Sorry, we'll go back. Thank you, Mr. Pastor. Mr. Doyle, on behalf of the Finance Committee.
Yes, I'd like to add to the agenda the waiving of penalty and interest for delinquent tax for 9046 Maple Street. It was $600 in penalties. So that is the motion to add to the agenda.
So we have a motion to add an item to the agenda.
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Dern. We will open up that addition of that item on the agenda for public comment. Would anyone like to provide public comment?
Okay.
Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Sir, proceed with your motion.
Thank you. I'd like to make the motion as stated.
We have a motion by Mr. Doyle.
Second.
Seconded also.
Second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And just as a clarification, that is for penalty and interest only. The taxes were paid.
Thank you, sir. That concludes council actions. Moving on with our agenda, the mayor's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before I get into this, I must say I had the honor a couple weeks ago to recognize 5 of our officers, 2 of them with medals they can wear on their uniforms, along with Mr. Odom and Chief Conley. There was a fire, as we all know, down in the ramparts, and due to the heroic efforts of our officers, it was fully engulfed, and they were able to get the lady out, thus saving her life, and they took her down the ladder from the bathroom head first, where other officers were waiting to help. With that said, there's a lot of talk out there you hear from elected officials, and I'm going to be really polite. Dumb liberals about defunding police department. Ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. When there is an emergency, first thing you do is you call for the police. As was the case with this fire, they called 911, the police got there. I've got to go through this report, but I've got both Chief Chief Conley and Assistant Chief Fosteretta standing in the back, as I've got a proclamation with all the negative stuff we're hearing about police. I want our police department to know how much this community, this council, value the services of all of our officers. But get into my report. Last month, the month of March, we had 921 calls. They're starting to go up a little bit. We're getting into summer. I mentioned about the fire down in the ramparts. Well, on March 27th, there was another fire at 24 Shangri-La Circle. Officer Brandt, who was one of the ones that was at the first fire down there, was dispatched and reported a mattress fire inside the structure. He couldn't put it out with the small extinguisher in the back of the patrol unit. He did get everybody out of the buildings on the apartments on either side, so there were no injuries. This is what police do. What you call them to do. They're trained to handle situations like that and not panic. And again, we've got some fine officers in that. The other thing we're doing here in Plum is we're rolling out body cameras. Our police officers will now have body cameras. So when you get stopped and you're a little bit upset, be careful of your language, because it's going to be recorded. And that protects our officers as well as the public. And that's a good move on the administration's part. Now we get into thoughtful citizens. On March 16th, St. Patty's, Pat and Stan Karmarski delivered 45 St. Patrick's Day themed cupcakes and a card to our police officers. Now, I joke a lot about them eating back there and not inviting me. On March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, Mark Reed, who comes every month and brings a birthday cake for all the officers celebrating their birthday that month. And I understand it was very delicious, and I can no longer make the statement that I wasn't invited because the chief did invite me. I didn't get any, but the chief did invite me. And on March 20th, Michael Cerniglia of Michael's Painting, again, has provided baked goods from Oakmont Bakery to the Plum officers in appreciation of the department's service to the community. When you see our officers out there, if you stop them and thank them, would be greatly appreciated. Simply wave. They'll wave back. Let them know what we as a community think of them and the services that they provide. And with that, Chief Conley, Assistant Chief Foster-Edger, would you please come up to the podium? Obviously, I'm not happy with all the comments that are being made out there, and so, in honor and recognition of our police officers and the vital contributions they make to the safety, quality of life, and well-being of our citizens, this proclamation is in support of Plum police officers. Whereas, the Plum Boro Police Department plays an important role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens in our community. And whereas, in moments of danger and desperation, the first people we turn to are law enforcement officers. These unsung heroes risk their lives so that we can live in peace and security. And whereas, negative headlines, anti-policing attitudes, and cries for defunding are commonly overlooked the good work done by police departments throughout the nation daily, and especially here in Plum Boro. And whereas, Plum Boro police officers continually treat all persons equally and would not hesitate to risk their own lives to save the life of others. And whereas, the Plum Boro Police Department's commitment to continue training, skill enhancement, and interagency coordination make them vital members of our community. Whereas, we owe respect and humble gratitude to the Plum Boro police officers who work tirelessly to protect us and sacrifice so much to maintain and defend civil order in our community. And now, therefore, I, Harry R. Schlegel, by virtue of the power in me vested as mayor of the Plum Boro, Pennsylvania, do hereby express sincere thanks to the Plum Boro Police Department for their diligent and good service to our community. In witness whereof, I have undue set my hand this 12th day of April, 2021. Chiefs, thank you guys. Thank you, Mayor. By the way, gentlemen, we all up here pat ourselves on the back for doing such a great job in bringing you two up.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. You got some good officers.
And I have one final thing about our police department, just to show you something. Chiefs, before you walk out of here, I know they can't wait to get home. One of our officers on patrol, Crystal Iacchini, last month happened to be on patrol on Sardis Road. She happened to pass Nancy Rivneck's home. Nancy was in the process of loading groceries out of her car into a wheelbarrow. Crystal turned around, went back and helped her take the groceries into the house, and I'm going to read what she said. It had been snowing and was really cold out. While making trips back and forth, she told me, that being Crystal, that she had fallen down her basement steps January 1st And it was the first time she had left the house for groceries in almost 2 months. Her head injury was so severe she lost her balance easily and had to put her groceries into the wheelbarrow to take them inside her home. In making small talk, Crystal mentioned that this was her first week back to work after having a child. Nancy, in her gratitude, gave Crystal a handmade quilt for her son, her newborn son. Now, that's what we do in this community. The police stopped and helped. They're not the bad guys, so if you run through a stop sign, you're going to get a ticket, guys. Come on. But she didn't have to stop. But she did. And that's what our police do. They're there to help. And Nancy Harivnak, in her gratitude, and it's a beautiful blanket, I have pictures up here, made a quilt for her son. That's the symbiotic relationship we have in this community with our police department, and with the police department with the community. And I hate to say it's a rare, but here in Plum, it's in full bloom. Thank you, gentlemen, for your service. And I know you thank Crystal for this, and I have as well. Again, if you see our officers, give them a wave. Not the one finger wave, please. Give them the wave. Or just stop and say, hey, thank you for your service. They really appreciate hearing that with all the negative stuff they have to listen to on the news, and then get up in the morning or in the evening and put their uniform on and go out and patrol the streets to keep us safe. Mr. President, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mayor. Sir, we'll be able to get to you as soon as we get to citizen comments on non-agenda items. Moving on with our agenda, committee reports. The Intergovernmental Cooperative Committee with the Plum School District. We did not have any interaction with them, so no information to report at this time. So we'll start with the Finance Committee. Mr. Doyle.
Thank you, Mr. President. Meyer Drusel, our independent auditors, will soon be forwarding a draft of the 2020 Independent Audit Report. The Finance Director will review the report for corrections, along with any drafting the management discussions and analysis. This analysis provides readers of our audit with a narrative overview of the financial performance of the borough. Fiscal year 2021, the borough has a tax anticipation note with Standard Bank totaling $1.5 million. We are projecting to process our first draw against the TAN during the month of June. For the month of March, general fund revenues totaled $751,918, and expenditures were $1,349,806. A few noteworthy revenues for March were earned income tax of $436,876, deed transfer tax $32,069, regional asset district $50,950, sanitation current $169,970. Some of the larger expenditures for the period were our police pension, which was $261,340. Contracted collection services, $168,108. Street light electricity, $26,058. Library quarterly stipend, $23,905. The borough received its 2001 liquid fuels tax fund payment in the amount of $791,168, and this is approximately 23% under budget. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. Moving on to roads, equipment, and grounds, Mr. Pastor.
Thank you. Project updates for the month of March are as follows. The East Oakmont Stormwater Project has been completed. There will be some restoration work done this month. We have reviewed plans for the Holiday Park Phase 2 Stormwater Project, and this will be going out for bid through the COG. The Center New Texas Culvert Project engineering is complete. This will be advertised in April and possibly the bid awarded in May. The 2021 paving project has been awarded to Felino Construction. The paving work will not begin until late summer, due to the stormwater work that is being completed. Road maintenance updates for the month of March. We've started doing stormwater repair to inlets that are in poor condition. We've been working on the MS4 pond inspections with HRG Engineering, and as of this date, all ponds have been inspected. We are currently inspecting and reporting inlet and outfall inspections for records according to our permit. We have currently inspected 465 inlets and will be working on getting this completed this year. We've started work on some of the retention ponds and bioretention areas that were called out in our pond inspections, and this will be an ongoing area of work for the department. We've been doing some road berming on secondary roads to get water to drain into the stormwater systems in place on these roads. We've replaced street signs with the new logo in the following areas: Holiday Park, Boyce Park, Regency Park, East Oakmont, and Frakestown Acres. We will begin patching potholes and curb repairs from damage incurred by winter maintenance. We hauled scrap from the old Public Works garage and we received $8,005.19. And materials were ordered for the upcoming construction season, and they're expected to arrive. We will be ready once the weather breaks to move forward with those. End of report.
Thank you, Mr. Pastor. Public Safety, Mr. Dern.
Thank you, Mr. Odom. To carry on with what the mayor doing with thanking the police department, I'd also like to shout out for the fire departments and the Plum EMS. They rely very heavily on the monies that you send in with their subscriptions. So I ask when that letter comes in the mail to please don't toss it aside. Each department takes care of everything, and just remember that everyone there is a volunteer. And EMS, they also send out a subscription notice too, so Brian can go into that if you'd like, but you know, they need a shout out too because their butts are on the line all the time when you call for a fire or a medical emergency. So remember them too. And with that, Mr. Maloney, if you'd come read your monthly report, please.
Did you say baloney?
Maloney.
It's the math.
You said baloney.
You said baloney. Maloney.
Yeah, it's a sign of affection, right?
We're not going to Primanti's for a
I'm sure
bologna sandwich.
I'm
It's
sure you prefer
Maloney.
malarkey. You know?
Brian Maloney, Director of Operations, Plum EMS. I always appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with everyone. For the month of March, we ended up running 221 responses. 135 of those resulted in a transport to the hospital. We ended up in neighboring communities 18 times, with 16 of those resulting in transports to the hospital as well. The total times that we needed mutual aid to come into Plum for assistance, because we were out on a call, happened 11 times, and that was about 5% of the times EMS was needed in Plum that we relied on our neighbors. So we have a good working relationship there. As far as what's going on, I'm also going to hop on the bandwagon about the Plum Police. Since I've been working here for just about 4 years now, I have to say this is by far one of the most aggressive police departments I've ever been a part of or worked with. I've been in EMS for almost 23 years now, and the people of Plum Police, they not only do the law enforcement, but they respond to all cardiac arrests, and they're the first ones in there with their AEDs providing CPR. You know, you hear stories about some, you know, carrying an 11-month-old out in their arms doing CPR. Same for overdoses. Every time they go into that house, they have their AED and they have Narcan and they administer it. They're extremely aggressive and a great group to work with. Had opportunity the past month and a half to do CPR and first aid training, and they taught me things. And so once again, hands down, great community. Same with our volunteer fire departments that you know, Councilman Dern was talking about. Some of the best. When we need help, they're there for us, and a lot of times they're the first ones there. So, you know, it's a community, kind of like what you talked about, Mayor Schlegel. You know, that creates this, and people that care. So for us, throughout March, we actually did quite a few car seat checks. I think we ended up doing a total of 7 car seat checks, and we gave away 3 free car seats. And so those are people who are needing a safe place for a child to sit in their vehicle to help prevent any injuries. And like Ms. Karen was talking about from the community center, kudos to her and the health department for getting this vaccine clinic together. Now, what Plum EMS is doing is that we have about 30 people doing home visits. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but we're estimating that to be over 15 hours worth of work. Because for every person, we have to sit there and wait 15 minutes after. So it's not, high efficiency on this. But it is about to try to get out to the community, to those who have difficulty get into a clinic or other issues. And we really worked with the Meals on Wheels program to find out who are these people. And so 3 paramedics, including myself, are going to be out in the community tomorrow. There'll be 2 ambulances and a response vehicle visiting homes to provide this. So I want to thank Karen for help putting this together and the county health department for providing the vaccines. It's one of those things that I'm very proud to be a part of, and I know the team of Plum EMS is as well. So questions, comments, gripes, concerns, complaints?
I just want to thank you so much for the clinic tomorrow. I was reading about you going to people's home and help them. That's something it's a missed population. There's a lot of people that are really struggling to get their shot. So thank you so much for being willing to do that. It isn't as efficient as you think it would be.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Maloney.
Brian Baloney.
Does that conclude your report, sir?
Yes, sir.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Planning and Economic Development. For Mr. Vento, we have Mr. Hadley.
Thank you, Mr. President. For March 2021, for the Planning and Economic Development Report, the financial summary for the month, there were 53 permits issued and $15,813 in revenue. The Planning Commission held a meeting on March 19th. They discussed the Pearson Run Road place of worship, a request for preliminary and final land development for the construction of a 3,300 square foot addition to the existing place of worship. The property is 4.16 acres in size and is zoned single-family residential. The zoning hearing board did not meet in March. Moving on, there were a few meetings of note. The staff met with a contractor to discuss a possible expansion of a commercial building on Route 286. And staff also held a lunch and learn for MS4 training between administration and public works. Some utility and row issues. Under the GIS, implementation of catch basin inspection via collector app and capability to run reports. There's completed all inspections of all 67 storm ponds and bio areas. There was a creation of a MS4 layer, a creation of an ASA layer, and a creation of soils layer. And there is also a discussion on new garbage and recycling tracking layer. Moving on, some code enforcement issues. There were 75 occupancy inspections which were completed during the month. 50 code violations and complaints were addressed, including abandoned vehicles, garbage, junk and debris, and failure to obtain occupancy. And there was also a sinkhole inspection on Emerald Drive. Some training that was taken. International Residential Code Training Seminar was attended. All of staff participated in the yearly MS4 training and hydrologic GIS stormwater webinar. And that concludes my report, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. Parks and Recreation, Mr. Delaney.
Thank you, Mr. Odom. For Parks and Recreation, at Larry Mills, the staff has started to prepare on turf on Field Area A. Crews are taking bad areas of turf out and installing new turf. Some of this new sod is actually from other areas in the borough, so we're really working hard to keep the costs low. We're mowing the complex, and the restrooms are now open at Larry Mills. At Plum Creek Park, many of you have noticed that the dugouts and backstops of fields 7 and 8 have been torn down. The materials are finally in, so we'll be starting. We're hopefully going to be able to get it done I'd say end of the month, maybe beginning of May. We're really trying to get it done as close as we can to the start of the season. At Renton Playground, the work was almost done on the new playground. Hopefully this project will be completed by the end of the month, early May. This is one of 4 phases. We did infield repairs at Renton Ball Field for the upcoming season. At Logan's Ferry Park, work will begin in the next few weeks on the playground. We're hoping for a late June target completion for that project. And with baseball, softball, and soccer starting soon, please make sure to follow all the park rules. Drive carefully in and around the park complex. Please really pay attention to the no parking signs. And I just want to make sure I repeat again, all the park bathrooms are now open. I know I was down there a month or so ago, and they weren't open, which caused a problem. So no issues there. And then in terms of Borough Haps, we just had an awesome drive-through Easter egg event. It went smashingly well. People were really courteous, really nice, all kinds of smiles, all kinds of good time. And then we have our Youth Trout Fishing Day coming up this Saturday on the 17th from 8 to 11 a.m. It is at the Plum Creek Park Stream Bank. On-site registration begins at 7:30 a.m., but you can skip the line and pick up your event license at the Borough Building on Wednesday, April 14th and Thursday, April 15th between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Any questions, please email events@plumboro.com. And then we also have our annual cleanup day on April 24th. And check on my notes. Yeah, that's it. You're good.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Delaney. And that concludes our committee reports. The Planning Commission will not meet in April. And now we will move on to citizen comments on non-agenda items. There are a couple people that signed up, and in addition to those who are signing up, any other individuals, once I go through these 2 who have signed up, are certainly able to speak. The first individual, I believe, is this D. Marcelise?
I'm working on it. It takes me a while to get up here.
Oh, take your time, ma'am.
D. Marcelise, I'm representing the Library Board of Trustees. As Ms. Calfo already presented on Civic Announcements, I am asking the Borough Council to help me deal with a little housekeeping issue. In 1993, the borough established an ordinance that instituted the Board of Trustees, and with all its duties and powers are mentioned in that ordinance. Several years later, while the library board was looking for property and started a capital campaign, and nobody will remember this beside, I don't think, maybe Bob Mytal would and Mr. Dice would, because they've been around as long as I have. The borough then chose to offer property adjacent to the senior center then. It was the senior center. And supposedly leased the property to the board of directors, the library, for $1. I was very excited, and with powers that were invested in the Board of Trustees by that aforementioned ordinance, I was happy to pay the $1 and just excited and willing to look forward and work hard and get this building built. In my defense, and I might have dropped the ball on this, there was no formal agreement, written lease, or anything like that. It was a gentleman's agreement, so to speak. Now, council people come and go, board members come and go on the library. So I think that maybe it should be established, or there should be some kind of document that states our responsibilities as a lessee, what the borough considers fair as far as leasing the property. And that's what I would like to see happen, or I'm asking your help for.
Okay, we'll certainly look into that. Are you talking about just the land that's adjacent to the library, or the
No,
library land and the
There
parcel
is,
that's
I believe
adjacent to
there's a little over 4 acres, possibly, or close to 4 acres, that we had to have surveyed. We had a soils engineer come out, and because of the mine subsidence and that, and we're lucky enough to find as he called it, a shelf, a stable shelf to put the building on. But, like when we had to have, for instance, when we had to have some trees that were dead cut down from the property, I didn't know for sure whether we had a right to do that, because it's not our property. You know what I mean? I mean, if I cut trees down on my neighbor's property, they're not going to be happy. But we had them taken care of, because actually, they were getting dangerous because they were right along the roadside. And several times when we've talked to the borough about certain issues, I was reminded that it's not our property, we just lease it. And that's fine. I mean, I'm happy, I was happy about the whole thing. And it was generous of the council at that time to allow that, us to lease that property.
So we'll take an action to work with our borough staff to determine what the current status of that is, and whether or not there's an active lease agreement on file.
I was told there is nothing, there's no record on file.
Okay, so
As I said, it was like a gentleman's agreement, and it's probably my fault that I didn't follow through with it at that time. But as I said, we were just so happy to be able to move forward.
Right. So like I said, we'll take the action to bring it up with our staff, and if we need to get something more formal in place, we'll work that with our solicitor and figure out what the best vehicle is to make sure we've got, the right documentation in place that addresses, what the roles
our
and responsibilities are
right.
for each of the parties. So.
The different roles and how we can proceed as far as issues that come up or whatnot. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care. Okay.
Is this Ira Helfer? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Ira Helfer, President of the Union Fire Department. I was really hoping to be speaking on an agenda item tonight, but apparently it wasn't on there. So I'd like to talk about the rescue truck and what council's plans are for replacing it. Our rescue truck is not going to last that much longer. By you guys not voting on it tonight, we're going to have to start all over again, because we're going to lose this truck tomorrow, the one that was for $685,000. So my question is, how much is the borough willing to put towards it so we can figure out what our budget is, or is there no rescue truck in the future, and there'll be no rescue truck in Plum Boro? So I'd like an answer.
You want me to take that, Mr. Dern? Or?
If you'd like to.
So my understanding is that the council asked specifically for documentation from the fire departments in order to make a decision relative to this issue.
Okay,
and that
and
documentation was not provided.
What documentation did you not get from my fire department?
Specifically, there was a request for a fire apparatus plan.
That is being worked on. The first that
We do not have it, though.
But the first we heard about that fire apparatus plan being requested was the work session.
Yes. So what you're asking us to do is to make a decision on spending almost $500,000 of taxpayer money without the appropriate documentation to make that decision.
Well, it would have been nice. We've been talking about this for several months now. And the first that apparatus plan was part of the required documentation was last Monday.
So my understanding is that we had asked for it prior to that. If you didn't get the notification relative to the request, you do have it now. And
Right,
you're
we
working
do,
on it.
but the fire chiefs need to meet to finish their plan. They are in the process. They are 7 years out now. They have a
But
7-year
we-
plan.
We as a council cannot make that decision absent of that apparatus plan. That is non-negotiable. We have to have all of the information before we make the decision to spend $500,000 of taxpayer money.
Okay, so my question is now, the truck that we're losing, that was $685,000, if we want to buy that truck again, it's going to be $1.1 million. That means the fire department, if you decide to give us $500,000, would be responsible for $600,000. We could have had this truck for $685,000. So it's going to cost the fire department an additional $300,000.
So that number's a little lost on me because we weren't under the impression that the individuals that were selling it were not going to honor the price that they originally provided us.
They are.
What's changed?
Nothing. But
Okay.
but if we do not give them an answer by May 15th, we lose the truck. We cannot purchase it on our own. We don't have the funds of $685,000. We have 3 days now to make a decision.
Well, can I?
Good, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. In February, you came to us and
Right.
asked us to make a decision in a week.
Right.
And because of the paperwork in the state of Pennsylvania, there was no way to let that
And we
happen.
understood that.
So you reached back out, it's not a company selling, it's a broker.
Right.
So you reached back out and they gave you to May 15th.
Right.
So my recommendation is get in touch with them tomorrow. We still may be able to meet that, okay? It'll be tight, but I'm not saying we will or we won't.
Well, May
but-
15th is,
Right, it's still a month away.
okay.
Right. So, we came to you, I came to you with everybody's questions up here,
Okay.
with information we wanted. And we got that. Not everyone got it in a timely manner.
Okay.
But I gave it to Mike, he gave it to everybody. Everybody looked at all that information, and then several guys had more questions. And one of those questions was a 10 to 15-year plan for apparatus purchases.
I could give
So-
you a 7-year plan right now.
Okay, well, that's not far enough for what some people had asked for.
Okay.
So for us, and I'm not want to speak, we've talked about this, and I'm trying, we want that information before we make this decision on the $500,000.
Okay.
So, if I can make a recommendation, reach out to the broker, tell them we're still trying to meet that, we're trying to do that. But ask them, that truck sat there for 4 years already.
Right, I understand
So,
that.
you know, there were 4 trucks, right, there were 4
Right.
trucks. So maybe, they're still willing to sell that, they'd give us another month or two for us to take a look at this information and make that decision one way or
So
the other.
I think my question is from what I heard from the work session, the borough doesn't think the fire fund can support the $500,000 purchase. Am I correct in that, Mike?
No, I don't think that's correct.
Okay, so my question is, so we can budget to buy a vehicle, how much is the borough willing to? I think we should start there.
Well, let's start one step above that, okay?
Okay.
Mr. Sims was here at the work session.
Right.
And he made a comment about the ladder trucks.
Right.
And about the numbers with the insurance that they have to be retired. So right now, we're looking at, within the next 10 years, to purchase 2 ladder trucks. And the ladder trucks now, this year, are probably about 1.7 each.
Right.
So we're looking at a little bit over $3 million to replace those 2 trucks only. So we need to look at the bottom line of the fire fund. That's why the question was asked about the 10 to 15-year plan. So, that has a lot to do with spending $500,000 now, and then another $3 million, or whatever we're gonna give, $2.5 million, whatever that number will be, within the next 10 years.
Okay.
And then in between that, there may be a pumper truck that
There probably is going to be.
Right.
There might be, there might
Right.
not be.
So now you see, it's not just one purchase we're looking at for the fire fund to to substantiate and hold up and control.
Okay, so I would ask this question. If council is not going to give the $500,000, can you give us a number so we have an idea? Can we replace the rescue truck or can we not? Or do we need to
I think
depend?
we made that after we look at your 10 to 15-year plan. I know it was short notice giving it to you last week.
Right.
But, let's, maybe get the fire chiefs together before the next monthly meeting.
Oh, they definitely will be, but.
Get that to us before the next work session so everybody can take a
But if
look at it.
But if that would have been asked of us at the last BFCA meeting.
Well, it wasn't asked before. Someone didn't think of that up here.
Okay.
Okay? I'm speaking for me. I didn't think about asking for that. So when Jim Sims, raised that question, that was something that, like, the light bulb went off and everybody said, it's like, oh, now that you put that into the mix, $3 million in 10 years puts a little bit of a damper on the $500,000 now, plus something else that comes up within that 10-year plan. So that's why that question was asked. And, we got it out there to you guys pretty quickly. I think Mike emailed everybody the next day, on Tuesday.
I didn't get an email.
No.
So I think what. Mr.
I don't think there's been a formal request for that information yet.
I did email you and tell you the council is still waiting for that.
Right, but all the fire departments been notified of that?
Yeah.
I believe
Anita
they
knew
were,
about
yes.
it. Anita and I talked.
But, so it's been less than a week now that we've known about it?
Right.
Okay.
But it was only raised a week ago. That question was only asked a week ago.
Yeah, it came up in the work session
Right.
that we could potentially have to spend, an upwards of $3 million, and that's
Right.
what raised the eyebrows of a lot of us, and we were very concerned. And I think, I understand you're looking for a number, but we're not prepared to give you a number when we don't have.
I
the
think we're
data
looking for
that
more
allows
support
us-
from council, because from what I heard from the work session, nobody on this council is supporting the fire departments.
I don't think that's the
No.
case. That's-
Ira,
that's not
please,
correct.
I beg to differ with you,
Okay,
okay?
then show us your support.
Well, please don't put that out there like that. That's wrong.
You're barking up the wrong tree.
That is wrong. That's totally wrong.
Okay.
There's not one person, that upsets me.
Are you kidding me?
Okay? I bust my butt at every meeting I come to for you guys to try to keep an open line of communication. Hold on. To keep an open line of communication. Don't laugh.
I'm not laughing.
All right? This makes me angry. Everybody up here has been very diligent, and no one has said they're not going to give you the money. There's more issues to look at than just giving you $500,000.
I understand there's more issues.
So I take offense to this council does not support the fire departments.
You're not doing anything to help your cause either.
That's totally, man.
You don't come to people with your hat in your hand and then insult them. Are you kidding me?
I just take offense to that. There hasn't been one time
let's go.
that any of us that I've brought anything to a chiefs meeting that wasn't in full support.
So to close out on this matter, we need to get the information so that we can make the appropriate decision based on the data, because no one up here is ready to arbitrarily commit to that much money of taxpayer dollars without having that be an informed decision. And without that information, you're basically blindly asking us to commit to spending money that we may not have in 5 years. And that's irresponsible. That's not what the taxpayers elected us to do. We're going to make a decision based on the appropriate information when we get it. And if we believe that's the right thing to support, then that's the way we'll vote. It's not about the fact that we don't support the fire companies. We just have to make sure that we're making informed decisions. So with that, is there anyone else who wants to speak on a non-agenda item, sir? I know you had your hand up. You're welcome to come up and speak.
Going back on the 801 Pearson, the possible expansion, there was just a survey done, and I have a dispute with that. And also, Cindy and Mike, that's where the parking lot would be. And the survey, I'm meeting with Don again on Wednesday, but it sounds like I'm not going to get the satisfaction. To me, it's really simple. They use high-tech equipment, and back when they put fence posts and markers, they didn't have high-tech equipment. Yeah, they might be more accurate, but what do you go by, So I don't know if I'm going to have to get another surveyor, and who knows from where, do I go? Court? Yeah, I can't, Dawn just seems to me stroking me, but we'll find out. You got something to say?
Is there anyone else who had a additional comment on a non-agenda item? Sir, I think you had your hand up in the corner. Are you?
No, he left.
Oh, he left. Okay. All right. Anyone else? Okay, that concludes citizen comments on non-agenda items. With that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion by Mr. Doyle, second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are adjourned.